Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Waffles the Asian Yen Bear here, and I am with Alec Hunter
Hey, what's up?
and Omni Toast over here.
Yo, what's going on, guys?
All right, and we are going to be reviewing episode 5 of WandaVision, titled On a Very Special Episode, and it was a very special episode indeed. I think, first off, we need to just say, big old spoiler warning. Every time we've said spoiler warning, this one for sure. If you have not seen the episode, pause this, go watch that, come back here, because it was a big one. Right, everyone?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was pretty big. There's a tiny, insignificant little detail that might get spoiled during this. I mean, it's just a tiny
little
thing.
bit. Yeah, very tiny, very tiny detail. You may have already been spoiled by the internet, and if you have, I'm very sorry. But we're telling you now, it's a good idea just to go watch this for yourself, because we had some reactions to that for sure while we were watching that together. Ooh, it was crazy. But the episode starts, and you can tell immediately that we're in the 80s just by the giant poofy hair that Wanda has. It's crazy.
I lived through that hair.
You lived through that hair. Man, I almost wish I could have, because that hair is so fun.
Oh, no, you really
No.
don't. I mean,
No?
unless you were an investor in Aquanet.
In Aquanet. Okay, if we had more time, I'd ask you what Aquanet is, because I am
Hairspray.
very curious. But basically, we start things off. Wanda comes in. We've got the kids who are crying. They're having a bad time, basically. And so Wanda's trying to get them to calm down, and she tries to use her powers on them. And that's when we get confirmation that her powers do not affect her kids. It doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how were you feeling about that, Omni?
When I first saw that, I was like watching the episode, and the first time that happened, it sort of piqued my interest, because I'm like, we've gone 4 episodes where basically everyone's sort of been, manipulated, or it goes in Wanda's favor, stuff like that. But this was like the first time we saw like her, like almost, I wouldn't even say helpless, but like without the sense of complete control. And that was a big like red flag for this episode for me when I was watching it, because I was like, okay, so this is the first thing that she can't control, is her like grasp on the reality slipping, or were there other factors in play?
Yeah, exactly. And it felt like that there was kind of a theme for this episode. We could see which parts she had control over and which parts she didn't. And we'll get into that a little bit more later. But another part on that I wanted to ask you about is with Agnes, because as the kids are crying, Agnes actually comes over, just like saying that she's heard it while she was walking, but like it was very clear that she was just here to take control of the situation and try to help the kids. And she does this one thing that really caught my attention, which I don't know if you guys feel any sort of way about, but she like sprays something over them. And by the time like it goes back to the kids, they've aged up. I don't know. Do you guys have any feelings about that?
Okay, so
Alex
what she claimed it was lavender. So there is belief that lavender wards off demonic entities. Now, given who I think Agnes is, I don't believe that for a second.
No.
Yeah, no, that was just a way to like draw our attention away from it, I think. Yeah. How about you, Omni?
It was just very, very weird. Like when she comes in, she just starts like almost sort of like fixing the situation in a weird way. Like she came in realizing, okay, Wanda doesn't have control of the situation. We got like, in a weird sense, like she's like out of the way. Let me take care of it. Let's get back to the norm. What we've been going for the past 4, well, I should say 3 episodes in Wanda's world, and then we had the one in between. But
yeah,
So there's. Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
Well, okay, so in that particular scene, there's a moment where Agnes turns to Wanda and she's like, "Do you want me to do this over? Do you want to take it from the top?"
yeah.
And then she looks at her and she's like, "You want me to hold the babies?"
And Vision was very confused about that, and so it was kind of us seeing that Agnes is very much aware that she is in a sitcom.
Very much.
Yeah, and aware of Wanda's powers of being able to rewind time and start things over again.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and I think that also adds to your theory as well, Alec, from before, and we'll talk about that more in a little bit here with a different interaction. But like, I think your theory about Agnes is pretty on par, especially with how this show's been setting her up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But Then we switch back out of the sitcom world, back to the real world, and we end up talking a little bit with Monica Rambeau and learning kind of more about how the world works. Basically, it was like Wanda's takes over your mind kind of, and you just feel her grief, like a very intense grief, and you can see that the whole world is kind of ruled by that. And that we also got another couple bits of confirmation on like what her powers actually are, and that they are like the reality bending powers that she has in the powers in the comics.
In the powers.
How do you feel about that? In the powers. English is hard sometimes. There was also one other thing I want to bring up as well, and I want to get your opinions on it, Alec, is the MRI that Monica Rambeau took ended up blank. And we kind of just breezed past that, but it feels like it's important. How do you feel about it?
Okay. So my theory here is that we just witnessed the origin story of Monica Rambeau to become her comic book character. I believe originally she was called Captain Marvel in the 80s, but then later took the name Photon, which is the same handle that her mother Maria had as an Air Force pilot. So her powers are very similar to that of Carol Danvers from the movie. They're, absorb energy, redirect energy type of thing. So it is possible that in the MRI, she was naturally absorbing the energy that was bombarding her to get the reading, and that's why it came back blank.
Yeah, and maybe her entering the world or getting thrown out of it could have been like a catalyst to start.
Now does that also coincide with her blood sample that they took, because they said they needed to take another blood sample as well
that
That's
she
true.
refused to give.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not entirely sure on that. But that whole intercalary scene right there, where we kind of catch back up to Monica, after all the tests and everything, and then they go into the lab and she pulls Wu's gun and just starts plugging into the 60s clothes.
Yeah, and then we see that those are just like the bulletproof vest turned into 60s clothes.
Yep, just like the drone was turned into the little toy helicopter.
Yeah, exactly. That was really crazy. Like I got a good laugh out of it.
Well, the important thing about that scene is that it confirms that Wanda's not creating matter. She's transmuting matter. So she's not creating something from nothing, which makes me wonder, where did the twins come from?
Yeah.
That's true. And do you want to talk a little more about your twins theory here, or do you want to wait on that one?
Well, I mean, we could talk about the twin theory, the Agnes theory. They all kind of tie together.
Yeah, exactly.
So from events that we saw in this episode, I've completely changed my theory. Like, I originally thought that Wanda just snapped under her grief and like lost control of her powers, and this was something that was mostly outside of her control, except for a couple of things here and there. But now I believe pretty firmly that Agnes is behind the actual, what they call the Maximoff anomaly in the email.
Yeah, the town. Yeah.
And I think that she didn't really know what was going on at first, and now she does, and she realizes she has some limited forms of control in this area, or nearly unlimited forms of control in this area.
Yeah, and I think the show seems to be setting her up as, like, they want us to think that she's completely in control of that, but I know that you want to talk about how there are some, like, moments that clearly seem like just to distract us from what the actual villain is. Do you want to start talking about that here?
Yeah, so Vision, he encounters or confronts Norm, his coworker. Yeah, his coworker, and he does the Vision thing where he like untaps his mind. So we get to see the actual person behind the character Norm, and he starts freaking out and saying that, there's so much pain and it hurts. You have to stop her. She's doing this. Never once saying Wanda. And that's very important because there is another female character in Agnes that could also be our suspect.
Yep.
And since the show works really hard to point the finger at Wanda, you pretty much know that it's not.
Yeah, especially when the clues for Agnes are still subtle, like in the last episode where she didn't have that ID card, when every other resident of this town had one.
Yep. And in this episode where she shows no hint of surprise whatsoever when the weird stuff starts happening, like the kids to go from babies to 5-year-olds basically right in front of her, and she's just like, oh kids, you can't control them, no matter how hard you try.
And then
and Wanda uses her powers in front of her too.
Well,
Right.
she was looking away at the time when she used her power.
Mhm.
She was looking away, but even then, like, she was still standing there when the boys went from 5 to 10, like right
She
in front of her.
literally saw that happen.
Yeah,
because she made a comment about hoping the dog would stay the same size.
Yeah, exactly. So like she knows,
right? And later in the episode, when they find Agnes and Sparky together,
Oh, so let's talk about Sparky real quick before we do that, just so that people know. So basically, a lot of the crux of this episode is that the kids grow up a little bit so that they can have a dog. They find like a wild dog and they want to be able to raise it, like kids do. They want to adopt a dog, and then the dog ends up kind of escaping. Basically, when Wanda leaves the house, the dog runs out, and then the next time we see the dog, it's with Agnes and has died, and so that ends up prompting kind of a discussion about grief with the kids. But it was very suspicious, and I know you want to talk about that.
Yes, I do.
The dog being there. So go ahead.
So first off, I do want to point out that azaleas are poisonous to dogs in real life. So props to them for using a real, actual way that the dog could die.
Yep.
I also don't believe that azaleas killed the dog.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So it's very obvious to me that Agnes is involved, as I've stated several times. But keep in mind that I've said before that in the comic books, Agnes is a cohort of Mephisto, who's essentially the devil. I think they're pulling from the comic book storyline where somehow Billy and Tommy are somehow tied to Mephisto. I don't know if they're going to go with the whole soul shard thing, but somehow they're birthed into existence through machinations of Mephisto, and he needs them to be older for something. Don't know what yet, but like the moment Agnes saw the kids grow, she was just like, okay, I'm cool with that. And then like she realized that it's about stress and about desire. Yeah. So she kills the dog, and I do think she killed the dog. I don't think it was the plants.
Yeah.
She kills the dog and then presents it to him as a moment of grief, and they tried to change. They tried to start growing, but Wanda stopped them. So I think that's a very important piece of the puzzle here. I think the maturation of Billy and Tommy has something to do with possibly releasing Mephisto into the world.
I think another kind of hint towards the kids being related to Mephisto as well as what we talked about with her powers is that like she's transmuting matter. She's not necessarily creating it. So to just create those kids would require something else.
It breaks the own rules of her universe that she created.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And now, Omni, I wanted to ask you as well, because when we were in the like real life area, not the sitcom area, they emphasized the hexagons again. And so before we would kind of talk about that could be leading towards AIM. How do you feel about this?
I mean, we've had her run in with AIM. I don't think AIM is going to be a big part of any story, but it does go more towards, we were discussing it, more towards her powers of her hex powers. That is the name of her powers. She, like, her power is hexing. Like, so it makes sense that it might just be a reference to her powers and with the name of them in the comics.
Okay, yeah, that would make a lot of sense. Definitely. Well, there's another couple things, just two things I wanted to address here that I think we all should talk about. Right after, towards the end, basically, Vision comes home. It's evening time, and he's had this conversation with Norm by this point, and so he's kind of aware of what's happening, that Wanda's in control of the world, and that it's kind of Wanda's creation. He also saw in the email, right around the time he was talking to Norm, that there's a thing called the Maximoff?
The Maximoff
what was
anomaly.
It called? Anomaly,
Yep.
Thank you. So the Maximoff anomaly. So he comes home and he's confronting Wanda, and they get into this really big fight. And during this fight, she's saying things like, I didn't do this part, or like the doorbell rings towards the end, and she's like, I didn't do that. That wasn't me. And then like even during the fight, she's trying to pull the credits on Vision. So you can see there's certain parts that she's controlling, certain parts she's not. And I think that was really important to notice those differences there. What do you guys think about that? Let's start with Omni.
I mean, so that was her way of sort of, I guess, the way I interpreted it when I was watching it was she found out she's not in control of everything. Like, of course, she realized it with her children, sort of a little bit with Agnes, I want to say, but doesn't really think too much about it, because she even says, she's like, she didn't notice anything, you know, earlier in the episode. And then when Vision starts confronting her about it, he does say, you can't control me like you control them. And she even just before she pulls those credits, she literally says, can't I? And then she starts walking away. That's when the credits start rolling. Like, that was her way of trying to, like, end the episode. But during the episode, Vision was having absolutely none of that. And right as he busts through that door, that's when the credits almost in a weird way, like, staticked and shattered out when he when he pushed the door open. And then we had that amazing fight between the two.
Yeah, with both of them floating, that was really cool.
Yeah, like, I thought they were about to wreck that house.
Just have Timmy come down like, what's going on?
Why did you throw Tommy out the door?
Oh no, poor kids. Mommy and Daddy are fighting. What about you, Alec? How did you feel about that?
I felt it was pretty good. It's interesting thinking about the fact that this is Vision's body being animated by Wanda, and we know that because earlier in the episode they told us that she stole Vision's body. They even showed us the security footage of her breaking into S.W.O.R.D. to do that. I'm wondering if part of this isn't trying to reanimate Vision permanently. Like, she needs him in here for so long to, like, charge up or something.
Yeah.
Because he wants to know what's outside of Westview, and her response is, trust me, you don't want to know.
Yeah, sort of hinting with the idea that if he goes out there, he might die instantly. Right.
Like, I think he needs to be inside the influence of the hex, like the hexagonal area of the anomaly. Mm-hmm. And I think she's...
go ahead.
I think she's somehow siphoning power from the residents some other way. I'm not entirely sure, but trying to get Vision repaired.
I mean...
Which, as they told us, is against his living will.
Yeah, which also at the same side would actually make 100% sense from what we saw in Infinity War, where her powers were on the same wavelength as the Mind Stone itself. That's why she was the only one that could shatter it. So maybe she's, in a weird way, thinking she could use her powers to, I don't want to say craft a new Mind Stone, but bring, fill that void that the Mind Stone had.
Yeah. So I think that's one theory. And while we were talking about that, I kind of had another one. That I know I haven't brought this up to you guys yet because it just happened. But what if before all this happened, she made a deal with Mephisto or Agnes or something where she would live out maybe a full life in this simulation with Vision, and then she gets to have Vision back. So it's like Vision in exchange for those two kids growing up and doing whatever Mephisto wants them to do.
I mean, it's as plausible as a theory as anything else we have with the information given to us.
Yeah, right. Yeah. We're still trying to piece everything together.
Something I just thought of, and I don't really want to derail us too much off of this, but maybe something to chew on in between episodes. We have seen colors, like very specific colors in the commercials, like the Lagos paper towel commercial in this episode was red, like the Aether, whatever it was called in Thor, which was one of the Reality Stone.
Yeah, that was the Reality Stone.
And the Hydra soap commercial, that box was blue. It was a blue cube, like the Tesseract.
Okay. Oh.
What if all of this is garnering power to reconstitute the Infinity Stones?
Okay.
Well,
maybe.
No, my question is,
that's spicy.
Did the other ones have colors though?
I would have to go back and look. Like, I know for sure that the toaster is the bomb that killed the parents, or that didn't explode because they were sitting there worried about it exploding.
Yeah, and they stared at the name Stark, hence why it was the Stark toaster.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would have to go back and look, but like that just kind of came to me like that's got to be more than coincidental that the Aether is like a red liquid type of form, and that the Hydra soaked box was in a blue cube that looked like the Tesseract.
Yeah, I like this idea.
I'm gonna have to go back and look at that.
Yeah,
that's got me thinking.
Wait, let's make sure to put it in editing so it's on the screen for them. Like, ooh, that's cool. That's really cool.
Right.
Okay.
But like I said, I don't want to derail too much because we still have the big thing.
There's one more thing we need to talk about.
The beautiful silver-haired elephant in the room.
Yes, so let's get into that. Basically, so they were having their argument, Vision and Wanda, and the doorbell rings, and Wanda says, "I didn't do that." And then they're like, Vision's not really sure, and he's like, "I don't know if I believe you." But when we go to the door, we get a wonderful back shot of the silver hair. And like earlier on in the episode, the kids had asked Wanda if she had a brother, and she said, instead of saying that he died, she said that he lived far away, and that made her sad. And when we open the door, we'll get another shot, and it shows not Pietro from the MCU, Pietro from the Fox X-Men movies. So we have the funny, great Quicksilver guy, and the episode ends, he comes in and makes like a couple one-liners, and that's it. And so that was, yeah, he calls Vision a popsicle. It was great.
That's an important thing.
Oh yeah.
By the way,
okay, tell me about it.
That could hint that he knows that Vision's dead.
Oh,
like who's the popsicle? Who's the stiff?
Oh, no.
Oh. Yeah. So I don't think this is Pietro. Obviously, it's not Aaron Taylor Johnson's Pietro. But I don't think this is any version of Pietro at all. I think this is a manifestation. And I would not be too surprised if maybe this character ends up being Mephisto.
That would be interesting.
That would be a twist, and I'd be all for it.
Mm-hmm.
But
I still think, though, that they're going to use this to bring him into the MCU, like, because they want to start integrating X-Men. But still,
I mean, maybe.
Yeah, because... I mean, it was, for me, it was, when I watched it, because I've seen it now twice, because I wanted to rewatch it, is one of those things, like, when I saw it, and I saw Quicksilver, I was just like, okay, first of all, I lost, my mind blew, yes. I was done, like, the rest of my day was meaningless to me, but it was, for me, it was one of the two things, sort of like how you said this is their way of incorporating the X-Men. I thought, like, this could be a way that they're slowly incorporating mutants, but I'm like, why would they do it through this means when, let's all be honest, we all know what the next big movie is. It's Multiverse of Madness.
Mm-hmm.
This is our first look into the multiverse. The Fox universe is its own universe.
Which would make sense, yeah.
Way.
Right.
And of course, I'm pretty sure the MCU is probably going to be 616.
Yeah, that would make sense.
So,
I mean, if they dig deep enough into the multiverse, I don't think they will call it 616 because that's the comic books designation for their world.
That's true.
They'll come up with something else. I think the actual designation is like 99,999 or something.
Oh my god!
For the cinematic universe, there is a designation in Marvel canon for what this universe number is. I just don't know it off the top of my head.
Okay.
Well, still, I mean, like it's just that cool part though. It's like that opened up the door. Like we got the little hint at it during Spider-Man: Far From Home, but like this is the actual. The door's open.
Here. Yep.
It's here. It's now. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is gonna be something that like it lit Twitter by storm. I saw last night. Nobody spoiled it for me, thankfully, but I saw everyone was hyped about it.
Yeah, I was so happy no one spoiled it. I was so thankful.
Yeah. So again, that's why we put the big spoiler warning of watch this episode. It's so good.
Yes.
All right. Any final thoughts, you guys?
Honestly, my main thing is now that, Quicksilver's in it, like sort of like what Alex said, is he going to be turned into Mephisto later on, or are they going to find a way to make her grieve more? In a weird way, like maybe kill him. I wouldn't say kill him off, but sort of erase him from the equation later. Like, there's just so much that can happen. And was it? I think there's only 3 more episodes left. I think it was only 8 or 10 episodes.
There's 9 episodes
total.
9 episodes.
So there's 4 episodes.
So 4 episodes left.
4. Okay.
So yeah, we got 4 episodes left. At this point, like anything can literally happen. It's a different reality from what we're used to.
For sure. For sure.
I wouldn't put it past him to kill this fake Pietro if he's not really Mephisto. I mean, come on. I'm 100% convinced that Agnes sacrificed a dog to Satan.
Well, Yeah, so she might have done that. Yeah, great. This is a family-friendly show, just so you know.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but yeah, like, I hope that they do keep him, because I really did enjoy his, like, he was one of my favorite parts of those X-Men movies. Yes. And so, like, I would love to see him in the MCU.
Yeah, for me, it brings up one question, though, is with the multiverse and them, doing X-Men, are they planning to keep that storyline then going? Like, are they planning to keep the Days of Future Past line going?
Dear God, I hope not.
I feel like no, there's no way. I think
it was bad, but I'm just like,
keep Quicksilver, keep Deadpool, flush everything else.
I think. Well, if we can get Magneto, that'd be cool.
I was gonna say I did enjoy the actor who played Magneto in Days of Future.
Yeah, he's good. Oh, he's good in everything, though. To be honest. Yeah. But no, I think what they'll do is they'll just like incorporate the parts that worked somehow, and then just get rid of everything else.
Yeah, I mean, there's the greatest like multiverse story that they can do, and that
Spider-Verse.
No, not Spider-Verse. The big one. Why can't I think of the name? I want to say Secret. It's not Secret Wars, but
it's one of the big event things.
Yeah, it's one of the big events where all the universes basically collide and one survives.
Oh. Yeah, the event that made me quit reading comic books.
Yes.
Oh, jeez. All right.
Yes.
This is going to get us totally spiraled out.
We're not going to go into that. We're running long as it is.
Okay. Well, anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate you coming to this every week. We're going to continue with another episode next week. We're going to do episode 6, where we're going to get tons of new information, I'm sure. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let us know your thoughts on this episode down in the comments below. And I've been Waffles the Asian Yenbear. They have been
Alec Hunter
and Omnitos.
And we'll catch you next week. Bye-bye.
Peace out.
Laters.